This is for Unit 1, Topic 2 of the Algebra 1A Semester Exam Review. Again, I want to show you that and remind you that on the front of your exam, you're going to be given all of these formulas. So please don't forget that they are there for your resource. You need to know how to use them, but that will allow you not to have to memorize them. All right, question number 10. Cami wishes to make bracelets for her friends. She buys a starter kit for $20, and it costs $3.75 in supplies for each bracelet she makes. She cannot spend more than $41.25 to make bracelets. Let B represent the number of bracelets that she can make. Which of the following inequalities could be solved to determine the maximum number of bracelets she can make? Well, we're talking about how much she spends, and we know that she's starting with a $20 expense. We also know that it costs $3.75 per bracelet, so that means times B, because if she makes one bracelet, it's going to cost $3.75. If she makes two bracelets, it's going to cost $3.75 times each of the bracelet, times 2. We also know that she cannot spend more than $41.25. So we know that that's her max amount, which means that this part has to be less than or equal to $41.25. Therefore, if we look at all of the answer choices, our answer is going to be B. 20 plus 375B is less than or equal to 41.25. All right, question 11. Let A and B represent two numbers such that A is greater than B. State whether each statement below is true or false. Justify your answer. So there's many different ways to do this. I like the way of solving and seeing what happens. So if we look at the first one, A plus B is greater than B plus A. To get A by itself, I'm going to subtract 8 on both sides. And what I see is that these cancel out and I'm left with A is greater than B. Since that's what we're looking for here, this is going to be true. And the reason why it's true is that when I subtract, I apologize for having to write this. When I subtract a number on both sides of an inequality, I know that the inequality symbol doesn't switch. So when I subtract a number on both sides of an inequality, it does not change the direction of the inequality. And that is a good enough justification for this. All right, with A minus 7 is greater than B minus 7, I'm going to add 7 on both sides. I'm going to see that these are going to cancel out, and I'm left with A is greater than B, which again is true. And it's going to be almost the same exact reasoning, except this time, when I add a number, on both sides of an inequality, it does not change the direction of the inequality. All right, with the next one, negative 7a is greater than negative 7b. I'm going to divide both sides by negative 7 so that I can get a these are going to cancel out, these are going to cancel out, A and B by themselves. But when I multiply or divide by a negative number, the sign switches, and so then A is less than B, which means that this is false. Now our reasoning why is that when I divide a number on both sides of an inequality, and that number is negative, the direction of the inequality must be changed. So let's write this. When I divide by a negative number, on both sides of an inequality, the direction of the inequality does change. So dividing by a negative number changes the direction of the inequality. Finally, for the last one, we have A divided by negative 10 is less than B divided by negative 10. So multiplying both sides by negative 10 gets A and B by itself, but because we multiplied by a negative number, I have to change the sign again. And here we have A is greater than B, which means that this is true. And I'm going to use the same exact reasoning except for multiplication. When I multiply by a negative number, on both sides of an inequality, the direction of the inequality does change. So it's important to remember that when you multiply or divide by a negative number, the inequality sign changes. And that's one of the properties of inequalities that we studied this year. Question 12. Mr. Flood needs to hire a plumber to fix a leak. The plumber charges a service fee of $50 to come out to the house and a rate of $100 per hour to fix the leak. If the plumber works any fraction of an hour, she will charge the fraction of the hour times $100. So if the plumber takes 2.7 hours to fix the leak, how much will Mr. Flood have to pay? So let's create kind of an equation. We know that it's going to cost $50 to come out to the house. So we're going to have our starting amount of $50. Then we know that it's going to cost $100 for every hour or fraction of the hour to fix the leak. So we know that $50 plus $100 times the amount of hours. And if the plumber takes 2.7 hours, we can multiply 100 by 2.7. So what we're going to have is 50 plus 270, and that's going to equal $320. My advice would always be to write a sentence. So Mr. Flood has to pay $320 to get his leak fixed. Next question. Mr. Flood hopes to spend at most, so that's a key word, at most $600 to fix the leak. Let H represent the number of hours required to fix the leak. Write an inequality that models the situation in this problem. Well, just like the last problem, we said we start with $50 and then it's $100 for every hour or fraction of the hour. So we know that we have 50 plus 100H, which is what the plumber is charging. But Mr. Flood does not want to spend any more than $600. So looking at each of these two sides, this is going to be the largest side. Therefore, 50 plus 100h is going to be less than 600. But it also says hopes to spend at most $600, which means that Mr. Flood is also willing to spend $600, which means that our inequality is 50 plus 100h is less than or equal to 600. The next question asks us to solve the inequality. So we're going to solve 50 plus 100h is less than or equal to 600, and we're solving for h. So the first thing we need to get rid of is the 50. So I'm going to subtract both sides by 50, and we get 100h is less than or equal to 550. To get h by itself, we have to divide by 100, and therefore h is going to be less than or equal to 5.5. Remember, we don't change the sign because we divided by a positive number, and we only change the inequality sign when we multiply or divide by a negative number. Next part, graph the solutions to the inequality on the number line below. Well, if you remember, starting at 0, we're going to pay $50 for the plumber to come out. So 0 is included, and we go to 5.5. And everything in between is going to be part of our inequality. So h is less than or equal to 5.5 is all of this. But remember, we have to stop at 0 because the plumber can't come for a negative amount of time. Finally, what is the meaning of your solution in the context of the problem? Well, our solution says that in order for Mr. Flood to spend at most $600, which is what he wanted to do, the plumber can work for no more than 5.5 hours fixing the leak. So that's what our solution says. The plumber can work anywhere in between 0 and 5.5 hours for Mr. Flood to spend no more than $600. Question number 13 says if r is less than 0 and s is greater than 0, which of the following statements are true? What this really tells us that if r is going to be less than 0, then r is a negative number. And if s is going to be greater than 0, then s is a positive number. All right, so looking at A, we have r is greater than s, basically meaning a negative number is greater than a positive number. That can't be true, that's false. So we know it's not A. B says r minus 20 is greater than s plus 10. What I'm going to do is I'm going to solve for r. I could solve for s, but I'm just going to solve for r. So I'm going to add 20 to both sides. And what I'm going to see is r is greater than s plus 30. Well, this says a negative number is going to be greater than a positive number plus 30 more. There's no way that that's true. So this is also going to be false, which means B doesn't work. C says r times s is going to be greater than 0. Well, r is a negative number, s is a positive number, and a negative times a positive is a negative number. And can a negative number be greater than 0? No. So this is also false. So C doesn't work. Finally, we have D. Negative 10 divided by r is greater than negative 10 divided by s. I'm going to divide both sides by negative 10. So they cancel out. But remember, when you multiply or divide by a negative number for an inequality, the sign flips. So r is less than s. So is a negative number less than a positive number? Absolutely. So D is true. For number 14, we are given a graphical solution to an inequality. Which of the following inequalities has the solution graphed above? Well, first of all, let's just look at our solution. We're given all values smaller than 2. And because it's an open circle, it's not including 2. So I can write out my inequality as x is less than 2. So what I'm really looking for is to see which one of these inequalities gives me a solution of x is less than 2. So if we start with A, we have negative 3x is greater than 6. I'm going to divide both sides by negative 3. And because I divided by a negative number, I need to switch the inequality sign, and I get x is less than negative 2. Well, that's close, but not exactly what I wanted. B, we have negative 4x minus 9 is greater than negative 17. So the first thing I'm going to do is add 9 to both sides, and we get negative 4x is greater than negative 8. Next, I'm going to divide by negative 4 on both sides. This cancels out. Because I divided by a negative number, I'm switching the inequality sign, and I get x is less than 2, which is exactly what I wanted. So I'm going to assume it's B, but I always want to double check and do C in case I maybe made a careless mistake. So we've got 2x plus 10 is less than or equal to 14. I'm going to subtract 10 first, and I'm going to have 2x is less than or equal to 4. Then I'm going to divide by 2, and x is going to be less than or equal to 2. That's close, but I don't want to include 2, so it can't be C. The final question for Unit 1, Topic 2 is number 15. Kendall has $88 in her piggy bank. She loves Young Teen magazine and starts spending $3.75 per week to buy it. How much money will she have left after 5 weeks of buying the magazine? Well, we know she's got $88, so that's what she starts with. And then she's taking away $3.75 per week. Well, we know that she's going to be spending 5 weeks of $3.75 to buy the magazine. So $3.75 times 5 is $18.75, and therefore she has $69.25 left over. So let's write a sentence for this. She will have $69.25 left after 5 weeks of buying the magazine. Next part. Kendall needs to make sure that she has at least $25 left in her piggy bank to buy a present for her sister's birthday. Let W represent the number of weeks that she has bought Young Teen magazine. Write an inequality and solve it to determine the number of weeks that Kendall can buy Young Teen magazine and still have enough money left to buy her sister a birthday present. Well, using the question above, we know that she starts with $88, and then she's taking away $3.75 per week, so times W to buy the magazine. But she wants to make sure that the amount of money she has is enough to still buy her sister a birthday present of $25. So this is going to be greater than or equal to, because it's fine if she has 25, greater than 25. This is saying the amount of money she has, which is 88, that's what she started with, taking away how many weeks she bought the magazine, that she will still have enough left to be larger than or equal to 25. So the next part is we need to solve it. So the first thing I'm going to do is subtract 88 on both sides. And I have negative 3.75W is greater than or equal to negative 63. To get W by itself, I'm going to divide by negative 3.75 on both sides. And because I divided by a negative number, I'm going to switch the inequality sign, and I'm going to get negative 63 divided by negative 3.75, which is 16.8. So we wrote an inequality and we solved it, but it's very important that we write a sentence because we need to interpret our answer. Can you buy 16.8 of a magazine? Absolutely not. Can she buy 17 weeks of magazines? No, because then she will have less than $25. So it's important to write that in a sentence to interpret it. So Kendall can buy Young Teen Magazine. I'm going to underline it because it's a title and that's what they did in the prompt. So she can buy Young Teen Magazine for 16 weeks at most. So she doesn't have to go 16 weeks. She just can't go over it and still have enough money left to buy her sister a birthday present. And there's your final answer. The sentence is very important to make sure that you interpret your answer appropriately. If you don't have it, you won't get full credit. And that's the end of Unit 1, Topic 2.